Good afternoon and welcome to this third unreliable travel guide to the coronavirus by Rusty Compass. This one is coming pretty hot on the heels of the second update. This is going to be a fairly brief one, but I feel like I thought I should update you on the situation in Vietnam. I'm not in Vietnam at the moment. My last post was from Hoi An, but I'm actually now back in Australia. I'm in a place called Byron Bay. Behind me, you probably can't see it, is the Byron Bay Lighthouse, which marks the most easterly point in eastern Australia. But while I've been here in Byron Bay, the situation in Vietnam has changed, and there are a few important things, important bits of information I'd like to convey. I should also reiterate a point I've made from the beginning. These are called unreliable travel guides for a reason. The first is because I'm not qualified to issue any sort of certain determinations about these matters, and the second is because things change very quickly. The situation in Vietnam and elsewhere all over the world with the coronavirus is changing very quickly. So of course you should check lots of sources as you make your decisions about travel. So what's happened since I was in Hoi An? Well, Vietnam had 3 weeks of without any new coronavirus cases, which was pretty extraordinary, and that changed at the end of last week. A flight from the UK apparently had at least one person infected with the virus, and that person has, it seems, spread the illness to others, both on that flight and also back in Hanoi and possibly elsewhere in Vietnam. So Vietnam has recorded a bunch of new cases. I think at last count it was in around 30, but that's very likely to change in the coming days as well. So keep an eye out. You'll note that that's still a far smaller number than most countries in the region. But nonetheless, it marks a big change, a big shift from the advice I was reporting last week. So Vietnam has new cases of the coronavirus, and that means that the likelihood that you as a traveller in Vietnam might be impacted, not directly, not by the disease necessarily, but by the efforts to contain it, becomes a greater possibility than it was when I made my last video in Hoi An last week. A number of foreigners have been infected with the disease in Vietnam, so a number of foreigners are being treated for the coronavirus in Vietnam, and a number of foreigners are also impacted by the quarantine situation that has been created as a result of these new infections. Another important thing to look at is what happens over the next week or so, because the numbers, the kind of spread that Vietnam, or transmission if you like, that Vietnam has experienced in recent days does not represent significant community spread. It does not represent the kind of spread of the disease that's been experienced in places like China, Korea, Italy, Iran and so on. The next week or two are critical really for getting a sense of how the disease will play in Vietnam. So keep an eye out for developments over the next few weeks. I'm going to post at the bottom of this video some links to websites that are providing pretty good up-to-date information on what's happening. And the final point I want to make in this little unreliable update is that the arrival processes, visa processes, have changed. Vietnam has changed its visa-free arrival processes for European Union states, I believe Great Britain as well. So you need to check what the current visa on arrival status is if you are coming to Vietnam, because the previous visa situation will have changed. So please check very carefully if you're travelling to Vietnam what the current status is in respect of visa requirements, because they may be different, particularly if you're from the UK, European Union. So the situation in Vietnam is different to what it was last week for the reasons I've just explained. Keep an eye out. There is, as I say, no indication as yet that Vietnam is facing widespread community transmission, but the next week or two will be very important in getting a better sense of that. Thank you very much, and as I say, I'll put some links below to websites that are keeping regular updates on the status of the coronavirus in Vietnam. Thank you. Talk to you soon.